think we have everybody here. I'd like to call the regular town board meeting, March 8th, 2021 to order at 7:03, I guess it is. Can we have a pledge of allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, just briefly, we have a lot of people on Zoom tonight. I realize we are going to try to keep the meeting moving forward. If you are interested in speaking with the board, we are going to open a period of time where we can have public comment only.
This isn't very watch that on the town hall. Yeah, they're doing the so I'm going to watch this for a minute till they.
Everybody, please do me a favor and stay muted unless you have a reason to talk. And as I said, if you want to join, please allow us to let you in before you try to speak. I'm not sure if it's set that you can unmute yourselves, but we're trying to keep this orderly if we can. With that being said, first order of business is our meeting minutes from our February 8th regular meeting and our February 10th special meeting. Town board has all received a copy of the minutes. Does anybody have any issues with the meeting? I understand, Kate, you had some minutes.
Just a minor correction, under when I reported on the new kitchen use. So the kitchen is permitted by New York State Department of Health for the town of Roxbury. So if somebody wants to go in to make pies, they do need a permit through Ag and Markets, but it's free.
Right.
It says permits will not be required through New York State Ag and Markets.
For the town.
For the town. I just wanted to put some clarity in there.
Okay, we do have a couple of requests to speak
We
tonight.
have to approve the minutes.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Thank you.
With the change.
Thank you, Diane. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes with the suggested change?
Make the motion.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sorry about that. Now we move on. Christina,
Hi.
how are you? You
How's
just walked
everybody?
in. You just walked in. Do you want to wait a minute before you?
No, not at all.
Okay. We have Christina Zill talking to us about the community solar program with NYSERDA. And go ahead and speak.
So first, we should talk about where you guys are with your clean energy communities designation. I know that Diane had uploaded one action, which was the code enforcement officer training.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys adopt the solar permit? I can't remember.
Not to our knowledge.
I don't think that we did.
I think that at the next board meeting, you should go ahead and adopt the solar permit because you share a code enforcement officer with another town, right?
Yeah, he has several times.
So he will already be implementing that. It won't be a big deal for him. So basically, you already adopted benchmarking, correct?
I don't know.
My recollection was we had to do benchmarking.
Some of this was pre me.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you were on the board.
I was on the board, but I
Yeah.
was not directly involved.
My recollection, we had to do benchmarking, but we didn't have to adopt the solar permit. I mean,
It was not a requirement of that.
yeah. And so I remember, I mean, it was kind of like there wasn't anything substantive that we sort of had to do.
About benchmarking, you mean?
Other than benchmarking. Yeah, but you know, we
No.
didn't, the idea of the solar permit was new, at least it was new to me. And I sat through that. Diane, do you have any recollection?
I emailed you guys today. I don't even see where we finalized the benchmarking.
Okay, so at the next board meeting, you should pass a resolution for benchmarking, and which I'll help you with. I mean, all you have to do is pass the resolution to get credit for it. and then I'll help you do the benchmarking on your website. It's easy. It's just posting how much energy you use. The solar permit, go ahead and adopt the streamlined solar permit, and you've already done streetlights, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we
then
have
you
done
will
streetlights.
qualify for a $5,000 check.
Okay, is that another $5,000 check?
Another one
In other
in
words,
addition to the
I
community.
mean, when we
solar
did this
campaign.
before, was to get the electric chargers, I thought.
That was a rebate.
What?
That's a different thing.
That was a different thing.
Yeah, that was a rebate. So anyway, so that will qualify you for a $5,000 check. Then the community solar campaign is where we're gonna run a campaign. Andy Cahill's gonna help me. And we're just gonna get 10 residents to sign up to get their energy through community solar. And then you guys will qualify for another $5,000 check.
If you get 10 residents to sign up for community solar.
That's right. Isn't that?
Is
Can I,
there
can I ask you what that is?
Community solar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's where there's a solar farm, and so instead of getting your energy from NYSEG, you get it from a community solar farm. I mean, it all goes into the grid, so you're not necessarily getting those molecules,
Right.
but you're basically offsetting other bad, dirty energy. So anyway, to run that campaign, we have to fill out, this is a new thing, you have to fill out a scoping document. I just did this for Fleischmann's. And it's very easy to fill out. The only thing is that you have to have a project manager for your campaign, which, Alan, I suggest it be you,
Of course.
or a volunteer. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay. And then we're gonna just get some people in the community to help us spread the word, any kind of Roxbury community groups. And,
Spread what word?
pardon?
This is a promotion for other residents in Roxbury to sign up for the community solar,
That's
correct?
right.
Okay,
But
you want us
the municipality has to show involvement.
Okay, 'cause
and
we
so-
did look.
Can a
into
link on
this.
our website be involvement?
Yeah,
That's one tiny piece of involvement.
Uh-huh, okay.
we actually, as I explained to you before, we did look into this as
Yeah.
a town.
Yeah.
And decided at this point, it didn't make sense for us as a town to do it, just for some technical reasons.
Right. It doesn't have to be the town that signs up for the energy.
Okay,
The town just has to
Can you
show
explain why-
support for the campaign.
Why the town should support it, other than the $5,000?
Oh,
Okay, what is it why is in the best interest of our residents that we push it? I'm just trying to find out why. So can you explain that?
well, I gave Diane some wording on the resolution.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, like, what's the selling point?
Oh, well, first of all, you get 10% off the NYSEG rate. So you get a discount. And you're supporting green energy. And if you don't want to support green energy, then you might not see a benefit. But I think there are plenty of people in the town that will see the benefit in that.
Okay, so, because, I mean, my understanding is that, in say, Delaware County and upstate, 90% of the electricity is greenhouse gas free. In other words, it's, the Delaware County Electric Co-op gets its electricity from Niagara Falls.
Yeah, but
The
you guys
rest of us
aren't
kind of
doing
get electricity from the 2 or 3 nuclear plants, Niagara Falls. And so we're already using
Pull your mask up. Thank you.
clean energy.
I don't think most of NYSEG's
I'm looking at the
I
ISO
don't think that
report.
most of NYSEG's energy is coming from clean energy.
Oh,
I mean, definitely, the electric co-op is almost 100% clean energy, but NYSEG isn't.
the what? The electric co-op, yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, the ISO produces a report every year, and it shows that upstate north of Westchester, 90% of the energy of the electric that's actually going through the grid is from non-CO2 sources. I'm just trying to,
Obviously, NYSERDA feels that it needs to be even greener. So they've made these incentives to get people to, go green.
That's actually a large percentage. I kind of can't believe that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
you can Google, who runs the grid? ISO or something? Google it to get their annual report, and you'll see.
Is there a reason we wouldn't want to
I was just
support
gonna
this?
say that.
Just out
You
of
know,
curiosity.
it's renewable energy,
There's, for community sustainability, here's the thing. We passed a climate act, right? That requires, by 2030, that 70% of electricity in the grid be from either wind, solar, or
renewable
hydro.
energy.
And by 2040, it's 100%. And upstate, literally, the overwhelming majority, whether you believe it or not, is non-CO2. Downstate, it's 90% fossil fuels. And the one big contributor downstate was Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant, which generated 2,069 megawatts of power. They're closing. Yet the ones upstate, they're subsidizing to stay open. So it wasn't safe to have the nuclear plant downstate, but it's obviously good enough to have it
Well,
upstate.
the one Indian plant
And-
is sitting on the
and-
fault line,
And
among
what?
other things.
And so in order for this statute to be in its law to happen, they have to install wind and solar upstate and to transmit it, then new transmission lines to get it to the city. So the reason you're not having wind and solar, in New York City metropolitan area or Westchester County, all that has to come from upstate. And then what part of this statute is that they're gonna require your home heating to go from fossil fuels to heat pumps, electricity. And they're gonna require eventually that all your cars and pickup trucks go to
Right,
electricity.
but-
So, let me on. So all that means that we have to increase the amount of energy going to the grid to do that, and that increase has to be primarily wind and solar. The only place you can have that wind and solar is upstate. In the Catskills is a prime area because of proximity to the city, right? You gotta get it transmitted all down to the city. So what, I think as a community, Roxbury should look at what it needs to be sustainable going forward. And we also have, the city of New York has purchased 85,000 acres of land in Delaware County over the past 20 years. It would be nice if some of that land, which is already taken from development, could be used for solar.
Can I
And it'd be
just-
nice if some of that could be reinvested in the community.
So,
It's just that it would be, and I want to say one other thing, which is, as part of the statute, they came up with a term called disadvantaged community. And the term disadvantaged community, 35% of the funding that goes into the whole thing has to go to disadvantaged communities. Unfortunately, disadvantaged communities are really disadvantaged urban communities. They're not disadvantaged.
I think
Rural
Walton
community.
is one.
Well, that's the way it's coming out. So I think I would like to see NYSERDA help, come to a small town like Roxbury and say, okay, with all these things that are changing, what do we need? Are we gonna have enough power ourselves to heat our homes and to charge our cars? Do we have to improve our transmission system? Can we find a way that we can benefit from the solar? It has to happen, but looking at it more from how can this community become more sustainable?
I
And
don't know any solar farms that are being built in this area that when you are subscribing to a solar farm, you're supporting community solar, but you're not getting those molecules. It might be a farm that's way upstate. I know that the first one for Delaware River Solar was in Sullivan County. And so it's not right here. Community solar just means that you're supporting the shift to
Renewable
renewables. It doesn't mean that you're gonna have a solar farm in Roxbury.
I'm not saying we
No,
shouldn't
he's
have.
not saying that, but can I jump in for a sec?
Please do.
So, the Clean Energies Communities Program, this is just the first layer. As you become more active about becoming a clean community, there is an opportunity for exactly what you're talking about, to do an assessment of sustainable energy in your community. So, but it's gotta start somewhere.
Well, I just, okay, so I'm asking NYSERDA. In other words, this is what I do for a living.
Right.
The focus is on getting renewable energy to New York City. That's the focus. That's the driving force. And the impact is gonna be on all of our electric rates. And there's gonna be difficulty, with electric cars upstate or in the Catskills, difficulty heating your house on an electric heat pump. So a lot of this stuff is gonna have, and then you're gonna have, the subsidies have to come from somewhere, right? The subsidies that, are all gonna get into the transportation costs of electricity. So the electricity prices are gonna go up. So I think I'd like to see a focus, a little more focus on what's the impact to upstate rural communities versus the focus now, which seems to be what's the impact on New York City.
I think that's beyond my scope. I don't actually work for NYSERDA. I work for Cornell, which has a contract with NYSERDA to go out and help communities access these programs. So I can't answer any of these bigger questions for you. But I think that I didn't understand quite what the thing was about electric cars. I can tell you that to charge an electric car is nothing. It's very low. And I just was on a conference call with some people about electric vehicles, and they were talking about charging their cars at night and the little bit of power that it takes. It's very economical. So I don't think you need to worry about it. It sounds like a lot of worries about sort of bigger picture issues, and that's really beyond the scope of what I can answer. It's philosophical.
Well, one of the points that questions they asked was, give a reason why not to do it. So there's a huge solar farm on 32 in Westerlo, and it is huge. And there are people there that absolutely love it, but there are a lot of people that absolutely hate it because to them, it's just another version of a windmill farm that's in their view. So what happened basically was a farm field was turned into a solar farm. And instead of looking at corn or hay, it's massive. It's unbelievable. And if you ever get the opportunity to go, check it out, it's right on 32, just outside of Greenville, right into Westerlo. So it's like the issue that we had around here with the wind mills.
Yeah.
You get some of them that say support the clean energy, and then you get the other ones that say save the mountains. We don't want to look at cell towers and windmills. And then if you go out west, a buddy of mine lives near a windmill farm. And when you look at them from a distance, you're like, what are people complaining about? But when you actually go to a windmill farm and you see how big one windmill is, it's actually intimidating. You stand there and you're like, holy cow. it's so, you know, you get 50-50, I guess, you know, like people like it and people don't. I mean, that's what you're gonna get is people wondering where the solar farm's gonna go and what is it gonna look like and is it gonna, you know, ruin my view and
I know that they tried to situate them so that they're not visible. And I personally would prefer to see buildings that already exist with rooftop solar. But this is what they're promoting right now.
Yeah. And I'm not opposing solar or wind, I mean, I think it's wonderful. I'm just saying, I would like to see if, I got the impression that NYSERDA had this program to help rural communities adapt to climate change and the changing electric market. And so I was trying to broaden it from just saying, you know, we're gonna, you know, get $5,000 because we got some people who are gonna get 10% off on electricity, but more looking at, you know, what is it, you know, in the next
So
20 years
Why
that a
wouldn't you
community
use
like,
that $5,000 to start to do an assessment about what you're gonna need in the next 20 years?
well, I was just kind of,
You know, you don't have to take it to the bar, you
I know, but NYSERDA has the expertise. In other words, I'm trying to get the state government. We don't have that expertise. I mean, you know, I'm just complaining that the focus of the state program is, you know, is to the disadvantage of rural communities. In that, you know, and that there should be a focus on what is going to be the impact of all this change on rural communities and how can the rural communities benefit from it. You know, one of the things in the statute that is not renewable is biomass. And biomass for people like us upstate would, you know, that would generate jobs. And most around the rest of the world, biomass is a renewable. But they decided not to do biomass to the disadvantage of rural communities that had opportunities to do it. So, you know, what I'm just
I understand.
acknowledging that, you know, it's nice to offer us $5,000, but what we really need is technical assistance and somebody thinking about the long-term impact of this.
Why do you think that this is gonna be a long-term negative impact for rural communities?
Well, I'm saying electric prices are gonna go up.
How do you know that?
From everything I've read, but if you want to go look at, Germany was the one that has gone the farthest, and their electric prices went up 50%. You know,
Who knows how
but
that's.
all right, well then maybe it's not. But you know, the study hasn't come out to say that.
All right,
But
so
somebody's, you know, so
if I were to
what I'm
bring-
saying
If I were
is,
to bring your concerns to NYSERDA, because I will be on a call on Thursday with NYSERDA people, so if I bring your concerns, you wanna say the focus of state program, disadvantages rural areas.
Mhm.
Because you feel that electric prices are gonna go up because of
because we're
renewable
also
energy.
gonna, you know, that the rural areas are gonna be where the transmission lines go. It's gonna be where the electricity is generated. And then the rural areas that currently have access to non-CO2 electricity, we don't, you know, the change, all this new change is for the benefit of getting it downstate. So how can you make it in the local municipality's interest? And our, you know, when it's in a colder community, more remote community, electric cars and electric heat pumps aren't as easy as they are in an urban community
Why are electric cars not as easy?
because of the distance that you travel. In other words, if I traveled here tonight from Albany in an electric car, I might have to park my car and get it charged before I could
I
go
don't
home.
think that's true.
Well,
I really
I
don't.
will say, I think they've done a lot better with battery systems and electric cars, and they have come a long way from what we're dealing with.
Yeah, it may have been true a long time ago, but I don't think that's true anymore, and
Well,
there are
maybe it's
also
not.
hybrids, if you're really concerned about.
Again, I think we're talking about two different things here as well. I think that what Christina's here to talk to us about more is whether we wanna promote and pass a resolution to promote this community solar program. And we have a copy of it here that you sent to us. I think the board will review it and
Okay.
decide, what we wanna do.
That sounds great. Just let me know
Yeah,
if
and
you
we'll go from
decide
there,
you,
kind of figure out what we're gonna do.
if you need help, because I know that you've definitely got at least 10 people in this community that will sign up.
Yeah.
And then, like Peg said, you can take the $5,000 and use it to think in terms of what would be most beneficial for the town of Roxbury, going forward with green energy.
Sure.
Okay? Is there anything else?
I think that's good. As I say, I don't think we'll do the resolution tonight anyway, but I think we'll review it and talk about it and then we'll
Okay,
decide.
well, that'll put off the program another month. And just be aware that there are only 100 community campaign awards statewide. So these take a little bit longer.
Put Macker back in the meeting.
I knew there was someone missing.
Jess, did you hear that?
Can I ask you one question?
Uh-huh.
So, from the town's perspective, you would just need us to promote it. You and your people would
Yeah.
work with the 10 homeowners or
Yeah,
whoever is.
all that basically, the NYSERDA just wants to see that there's some, with it, Andy's is going forward with it. And to me, it just seems like a no-brainer. It's really easy. I'm also gonna be running some clean heating and cooling campaigns that deal with the, heat pumps. I'm signing up to get a heat pump myself at my house. Really looking forward to it. And that one takes longer. So this is the low-hanging fruit. And I'm trying to jump in there and get these awards for communities here in the Catskills before they disappear. That's basically my goal. So if you want to pass the resolution tonight, then Andy Cahill and I will get on this starting, in a week. And if you want to wait another month, you can wait another month.
So can I ask a follow-up question to the town's involvement? So before Andy, I'm sorry, Christina, so you said, when I mentioned the website, you said that, that would be one little thing. So what other thing would you look for wouldn't I sort of look for the town to do?
Just pass the resolution and possibly put in some money for some flyers to put around. I'll write a press release to go out to the papers. Andy and I will do interviews on WIOX. I need to find some people who are in the village who will help spread the word. So there's really not a lot that you'll have to do, but
And where would the flyers go? Like where would people get those?
I would put them probably at, is it called Roxbury General?
Okay, yep, yep.
The wines and spirits.
If you got support from the local chambers, like in Grand Gorge, the Business Alliance,
Yes,
we could take those flyers and put them in all of our members' businesses around town. Is that,
yes,
okay? all right.
because it can also be businesses that sign up.
Is it,
And it's a really good deal. I have community solar. It's great. You get 10% off. Why not?
and
Yeah.
so is there a limit of 10 or
A limit.
a limit of 10 that sign up?
No,
or
it can
it's
be any
unlimited?
number, but it has to be a minimum of 10. And the
we
only
get
other thing I
5,000
need
for
to
every
know
10?
that was, the only other thing I need to know that was a little hard for Fleischmann's to figure out is how many owner-occupied residences there are. So that's a little piece of homework.
Stephanie.
And we need to know the number of owner-occupied residences?
Yeah.
And, okay.
You could do that from comparing.
Oh, yeah,
the second ones.
okay.
Solar has come a long way, and it is awesome. It really is good. So is the hydropower. Windmills, I don't like the windmills.
Okay, does the board have any other questions concerning this? We need to move on. We're gonna have
Yeah,
a late night.
we've taken a long time. Thank you for your time, and I'll be talking to you soon, Ellen, and find out what you guys
Okay.
want to do.
Sure.
Good night, Diane.
See ya.
See you.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, we have a lot of people on here, concerning the short-term rental ordinance that we are looking at. I just wanted to have Deanna, they had one meeting this week, and I just wanted to have Deanna go over a brief recount of what the meeting was about and how things went. After that, I'll say a few words, and we may have Kevin talk a little bit about what it requires to develop a local law, so that everybody that's on here can understand that this is not something that's gonna happen overnight. And people do not need to be worried that we're gonna be trying to cram this down somebody's throat, which I've heard from a few people. So, with that, Deanna?
Yeah, so we met, almost 2 weeks ago, everybody was there, Macker, Terry, Esther, myself, and Rich, girl. And, so we just had a very brief agenda. It was more about getting to know each other and what the objectives were from each individual. So we did introductions, name, affiliation of Roxbury, and, what their objective was to be on the committee. The background of why we were forming that committee. We did have 2 people bring issues to the board. This is something that area towns are doing currently as well, and some of them are in the process of doing it. We all agree to the objective, the purpose of the committee is to create a local law for short-term rentals to ensure the safety of the visitors and to ensure visitors are respectful of the neighbors and community. So we all agreed upon that. It's mostly about the safety, and respect of the community. And then we just had some brief discussions. Really, we didn't really talk about anything that needed to be into the law or anything. And then we just determined that Macker and I would, draft something up, and then we would get back together at the next meeting and go over it with everyone. So that was pretty much it. It was an hour long. Everybody was in agreement. Nobody is against short-term rentals. You know, we just want to make it safe for everybody. And if we, you know, if you are a neighbor, we want them to be respectful of your property, as anybody would. That's about it.
And Kevin, can you just kind of briefly give us an overview, and for the benefit of everybody that's on here, what is required in developing a local law or an ordinance?
Well, simply that, once you have a draft of the local law, you then have to present it to the board, right? And you're supposed to put a draft 5 days on their desk before the town board meeting. And at the town board meeting, the board can then make a determination whether they want to proceed with that local law or send it back for revisions. If they decide to proceed, then what they do is they schedule a public hearing on the local law. And we have to publish notice of the local law in the newspaper and post it. And then, you know, have a public hearing, and there's, you know, the notice has to be 14 days prior to the public hearing and all that. And then at the public hearing, it's just what we call a legislative public hearing. It's people come and give their opinions. They can submit written comments. And then once we get the comments, the board can then decide whether to adopt the local law. The board has to vote on the local law. If the board, and that vote is just a normal majority vote. And then once that's done, it's a local law, and then we file it with the Secretary of State. It's not the way the system is set up. If based on the comments, you have to make a significant change, we have to go back and have another public hearing. You can't, because the way the law is set up in New York, the public has a right in advance to know what you're going to adopt. And so if you make a significant change, a substantive change, then you've got to go back, renotice the hearing, and do it over.
So essentially, if we drafted something, we'd have to give it to you to make sure it's.
Well, yeah, you might give it to me to make sure it's
Yeah.
okay. So then the other thing is, you know, we can't willy-nilly, we don't have authority just to draft whatever law we want. The power you have, you don't, you know, a law like this, you know, could be adopted through a zoning type of authority, but we don't have zoning, and you can't have partial zoning. Okay, so you have the authority to adopt laws to as part of your police power to protect public health. So that law would have to be, you know, limited to, you know, what is necessary to protect public health. And then, you know, and then within it, depending, you know, like, you can't discriminate against interstate commerce, you know, which means you can't say you have to be an in-county resident to do this. You know, there's different things that we would look at to make sure that the law doesn't violate either the state constitution or the federal constitution, and is within your statutory authority. But the type of laws you're looking at, the ones that say Fleshman's has, you know, has already been vetted for that.
With that being said, again, I'd like to reiterate what Deanna said. I don't think anybody on the board is looking to try to deter short-term rentals. I feel it's a benefit to the community in that it does provide extra bed space. It also gives second homeowners who may not be using the services of the community as much as they normally would because they don't live here, gives them the benefit to offset some of their costs of paying taxes and being here, so there's definitely a benefit to it. On the other side of that, I've been a fireman for almost 40 years, and I want to be the last one to go to a house and find somebody on the third floor attic in a bedroom dead because nobody looked at the safety of how come those people were allowed to sleep on the third floor. So with that in mind, we're hoping to develop a law that makes sense, that everybody can live with, and we are absolutely not trying to do anything behind anybody's back or take away anybody's livelihood. So I know there's been a lot of people concerned about this, and I'm more than willing to talk to you. We have a committee formed. The committee is going to do their job, and when we have something to present to the public, we will do that. Jess, if you'd like to open it up for comments for about 10 minutes for anybody that may like to speak to the board or be heard about this ordinance or this law, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, so what we should do is if somebody wants to speak, please put it in the chat to everyone that you want to speak and I'll unmute you.
If anybody has a question how to do it, Jessica is handling my video.
Okay, Lucia and Sid, Sid, I'm going to unmute them to make a comment. Hang on, I just have to find them. Okay, here we go. Lucia, you should be able to unmute now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Kevin, how do we get information on these meetings and what the committee is discussing? A lot of people are concerned that we're not getting information, so we're asking to have an open communication and that the STRs know what is being discussed. Is there anything that we can get?
Yeah, open meeting law, the state open meeting law now requires boards to meet in public with notice, applies when you have more than two supervisors, two board members present at the meeting. If you have less than two or two or less, then it's not subject to the open meetings law. Then, you know, so it's possible, and we do it all the time, right? We're going to meet with DOT, or we're going to meet with this person or that person. You can have meetings that are not open to the public. The documents that you produce are, however, subject to the Freedom of Information Act. So if you have minutes and stuff like that, that's subject to the Freedom of Information Act. So the paper that you produce. Now there is something we call deliberative privilege, which deliberative privilege is really among the decision makers. So but if there's pieces of paper going between board members that are talking about what about this idea versus that idea, they want to have a free exchange of ideas, so that deliberative privilege would protect that document from being subject to FOIL. But the minutes of the meeting would be subject to FOIL.
And as
Okay,
we
the
did, as
the
we
next-
did earlier, I did post the minutes for the last committee meeting. We will continue to do that as they're prepared. Again, I just ask that we are able to let this committee do their job and come up with something. It's gonna be very complicated if they cannot get to first base with developing an ordinance.
Okay, the next person is Jason. Jason, you can unmute now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Quick question. So obviously this is focused initially on short-term rentals, but things like trespassing and things of those nature, of that nature, if you're making a move to look at, and to restrict it, should that not be a greater Roxbury thing? Like, because I know, hunting or people coming on land to look at the ponds and stuff. Like I have a pond. People wander on there all the time. Is this meant to be specifically targeted just for people who rent, or are we going to take a bigger look at this and go, you know what, can you really just say, if you're not from here, you can't do it, but if you're from here, you can? And then how do you police that, and how do you handle, those issues there? Because in all, it opens up quite a big can of worms. Like, I want no one trespassing. I have a short-term rental. I would never want someone trespassing on someone else's land, just as I wouldn't want someone trespassing on my land. Locals, and I've been up there for 15 years, so I consider myself a longer-term person there. But, it seems like it needs to be either you can't really look at it, or you got to make it more encompassing. I guess that's my opinion and thought. I want to know, are we looking at that as a bigger issue, or it's really just going to be like, you know what, everyone else can do what they want, short-term rentals, these are the rules?
What? You want to answer that, Kevin?
Well,
Nobody's allowed to trespass.
yeah, if somebody is trespassing, that's a criminal thing. It's also a civil thing, right? You can enforce it yourself, and sue them and stuff. But it's a criminal thing that we don't necessarily get involved. I think what they're attempting, the committee is attempting to do is, I'm called accountability. Right? You're leasing your home on a short-term basis. If you lease it to 20 college kids that have this big party and interrupt the neighborhood, you got to be held accountable for it. But if you are a responsible person and you're making sure that the people are following the rules, then I think this is really focused on accountability, so that if you have somebody who is really negligent or careless,
And safety, I think, is.
Health and
really-
safety.
Health and
Safety is a big
safety,
thing.
is
Making sure
not
that
about,
the visitors have the safety of what happens in an emergency, making sure that the number is available if the fire department has to come. It's all about giving the occupant the information that they need in case there is a safety issue. Yeah, that's a lot of it.
Okay, I have Robin and then Lucia again. So Robin, you can go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, terrific. So I have a question that is similar to Jason's concern. I'm wondering why these laws, which sound like if they're about safety, why they would only apply to short-term rentals. Would they apply to longer-term leases? And would they also apply to just houses and residences in Roxbury?
I mean, in some of these cases, if you're renting something, you have an obligation to provide information to that renter. So like, I don't understand why why we're arguing about that. Like, if you live here, you know who to call, or you should know. So like, there has to be something in place to protect the renter as well, like their safety. And we want to make sure, we want to make sure they're staying in a place that's safe, that they can there's a fire escape, but all rental properties have to have those sort of things, don't they? Like,
Well, okay, so we have a program called that. It's called the building code.
Right.
And we issue certificate of occupancy, and we have electrical inspections. We, that's for the safety of the structure as a residence, and those building codes are designed to protect the safety of residential. And if it was a commercial use, they have a different building code for the commercial use to make sure it's safety. I think when you say safety, I think what we're talking and what Fleshman's has is you provide the short-term renter or with a book
right.
that says, okay,
Everybody's
here's the
building.
fire department, here's the phone number, here's
What you do with your garbage.
here's the
Like,
emergency, yeah, this is how you handle the garbage, and so I think it's not a great idea for the town to actually get into the building code. We have a code enforcement officer, that's his job. Whether that house is short-term rental or a year rental, we shouldn't treat it differently. The law, the building
Right.
code is exactly the same. And so if we're not necessarily going to say, that even though this complies with the building code, we think it's unsafe. We're not gonna, I would advise against that because we're taking on that responsibility, then someone gets hurt, all of a sudden, we said it was okay. Right?
Yeah.
So now we're liable. But the idea being that the short-term rental person, a person who lives here full time, is going to know that. This is the person who buys a house is going to know that. But the person who comes for 2 days, it's important that they know, what to do in case of an emergency. So I think am I saying it right?
I mean,
Okay,
correct me if I'm wrong, some of the people that have the rental businesses, but I've stayed on Airbnbs many times. And virtually everyone that I've been in, there's a notebook or something on the dining room table that says, here are all the things you need to do. Here's who you need to call if your toilet doesn't work. Here's who you need to call if your house catches fire. I don't think this is really reinventing the wheel for the short-term rental business. I think we're just asking that everybody complies with some set of standards that goes forward with this. And I think that's the reason for doing this. Jason, to your thing on trespassing, again, these are state laws. State trespass laws have been on the books for many, many, many years. That's a different scenario that really does not need to be included in a short-term rental law. Those laws are already in place. If somebody walks on your property, you can have them arrested. And that's the way it should be. But sorry, Lucia, you can go ahead if you want.
No, next is going to be Esther and then Lucia.
Okay.
So Esther, go ahead and.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I have 2 questions and then I have just some comments that relate to everything that I've just heard from several people, including town board. So my first question is, how many actual complaints have there been over, let's say, the last 2-3 years from homeowners about short-term rentals to the board, like at a town meeting, like what's been recorded, not hearsay, not blah, blah. How many complaints have there actually been?
I'm not so sure that we have any records or minutes that show that, to be honest with you. As far as somebody
Okay.
actually coming to a town board meeting.
Okay. My next question
We have
is,
had a couple. I wouldn't say that. Let me correct that. We have had a couple, at least 2 that I know of, but not a lot.
okay, so let's say a couple. And then my next question is, how many complaints have there been from neighbors about other neighbors about issues such as I've heard mentioned with some letters that I've seen from some other homeowners, rental properties, about noise, about trash, about building maintenance, things like that. Like, how many complaints, official complaints, have there been about that?
Same. I really can't answer that. I think many of the complaints have probably gone to the state police or gone to our constable or somebody like that, and not necessarily to the town board.
Okay. So then the next thing I want to just say, and I think that's kind of in a nutshell what the concern is from the STRs overall, from what I've heard on Facebook and letters and so on. There's a number of issues that people are really concerned about. For example, we heard trespassing. We heard why that might not be something that will be really taken up in these regulations, because there might be state laws about that, etc. But then there's also trash and there's noise and so on. And it shouldn't be that accountability is just for homeowners of short-term rental properties or rental managers like myself. It should be for everybody. When we are talking about accountability, when you're talking about, for example, noise, and I know for a fact, some properties that are rental properties were dealing with neighbors deliberately playing loud music or being noisy because they didn't like the fact that there was a rental next door. I also know that there have been some issues with rental properties being loud next door. But when you're going to make a law about something like that, it should be something that is for everybody. It shouldn't be that, okay, you have a rental property, so you can't make noise, let's say after 11 o'clock p.m., but your neighbor who's not a rental can do what they want and play music late at night, and there's no consequences. If there's going to be a law like that, there has to be consequences for everybody so that it can be enforceable. Also, for me as a rental manager, if I have rowdy renters and I have a way to enforce, any kind of calling the state police and they can actually do something, find somebody, it should be the same as if I'm playing loud music and being rowdy time and time again. And my neighbor is fed up with it, and they should be able to do the same. So I think that's really something that I will certainly, as a committee member, keep in mind. And I just wanted to say that tonight because I feel that among the STRs, there's a lot of concern about that. And then I just had a question for the town attorney. You mentioned briefly partial law. What does that mean? Does that somehow relate to what I'm saying?
I don't remember saying martial law.
No, partial.
Partial law.
Yeah, that you cannot have a partial law. You mentioned earlier
I don't know what
that you cannot have a partial law. So you can't, I don't know what that means. So I'm asking you what that means, that you cannot have a partial law.
Yeah, I
think you were talking about zoning.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, it was relating to zoning, but we don't have zoning, so.
Like if we had zoning, we could theoretically restrict the areas of the town where short-term rentals are allowed. We can make that a use that we restrict. We don't have that, but we need to have comprehensive zoning. We don't have comprehensive zoning, so we can't have just one zoning law. We gotta have a comprehensive zoning. That's what, right? That's what
It's considered spot zoning.
Yeah.
Specifically zone a certain type of property or something. And Roxbury, as most of you know, does not have a zoning ordinance at this point. It was looked into several years ago, and at the time, the town board felt that it was not something that Roxbury needed. I'm not so sure that this should go to that level at this point.
No, we'll
That's
bring in a lot more other people.
that's a whole totally different discussion for a different day. Again, we're trying to keep this simple. We're trying to keep it reasonable. Esther, that's one of the reasons you're on the committee. You have a lot of experience with a lot of different owners because you do manage these properties, and that's one of your reasons your expertise will be valuable on the committee. So,
Can I just say this? The difference between long-term and short-term is simply, if you have more than 5 staying, then you have to get a permit from the New York State Department of Health as a temporary residence. So if you have, 5 different rooms that are 6 different rooms that are being rented, then technically you're subject to Department of Health. And you have to get that permit every year. And Department of Health will come in and do an inspection. And they're gonna make sure you have those safety plans, and you gotta have, contingency plans, you gotta have plans on your door as to how to get out in case of a fire, you gotta have the fire alarms and all that. And they get into the building code, but then they always say, well, it's not my call, it's the code enforcement. So, this kind of fits because it's 5 and under, because you don't have that regulatory program. So, but then what you do have is you have strangers, people who aren't familiar with the community, coming up, staying in a place they're not familiar with. And so a lot of that information that DOH would want the innkeeper to convey, we're just trying to make sure it gets conveyed. So it's you know, and somebody may not, particularly like property boundaries, you know, you come up and you stay at a place, you see this big open field, you may think it's your playground. And so knowing, you know, informing the short-term renter that, hey, these are the property boundaries, you can't go over to my neighbor's yard, you know, or beware of his dog, whatever. And so, I mean, so part of it is really just kind of educating to make sure that the short-term renter has the information to know what a responsible behavior is.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them might already have this, so it
Yeah.
might not even affect them.
Yeah.
They might give them all that
And
information.
correct me if I'm wrong, but as a contractor, I get a lot of new vacation rental people asking advice. I think part of the problem is that we're in this age of an Airbnb where the average homeowner can, without someone like Esther, just be involved with renting their home out and not being a business owner or in that type of business professionally. They don't know to inform people and to have these things prepared. And if they're not going through Airbnb, which does have requirements and things that you have to do, and you have to prove it in order to be on Airbnb, you go through other rental sites or just do it on your own. You know, a lot of people are becoming renters and they never did it before. And I don't mean renters like they're renting, they're in the rental business now. And that's becoming a problem because I get a lot of people, you know, I had tenants here and you got to replace this thermostat, and they had a party and they removed the baseboard heater off the wall, and you know, what would you do? Do you take a security deposit? I don't know what to do. And I've come across a lot of people that have no clue at all. And that's a problem. That's
So it's
where
like a
safety
playbook
issues
for the
come.
property, basically.
Okay, we do need to cut this short. Lucia, did you want to speak again, or do we have anybody else asking to speak, Jess?
Yes, Lucia wants to speak and then Tim. So Lucia, go ahead
We've
and,
got like 5 more minutes and then I'm cutting it off permanently for the night. We have a lot of other things to talk about, and the committee will do their job, and we'll discuss it again at a former meeting, or at a different meeting.
Okay, just this is actually going to be a quick question, so Tim could speak. Just in regards to time frame with the communications, how many days, hours does minutes get distributed before a public meeting or after a meeting was held? That's Kevin. So if for example, 72 hours for a town board meeting, prior to town board meeting has to be posted to the website. So if someone from the town committee, short-term rental town committee has a meeting and they have minutes, when should that be communicated to people?
Okay, so if it's a meeting that is subject to the open meeting law, like a town board meeting, then the law says that
14
For
days.
town board meetings, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. But if it's a meeting that's not subject to the open meetings law, there is no specific requirement as to prepare minutes or to publish those minutes. But if minutes are prepared, those minutes that are prepared are subject to freedom of information. So it's really up to the committee itself what kind of documentation they decide to generate. But the documentation they generate is something that's subject to play. Is that okay? I mean,
Yeah.
So it's a choice. It's a choice if they develop meetings. Is that so? It could be the committee's choice to not have minutes. Is that correct?
it could be not to have minutes, but then again, why do you have a committee if you don't have meetings, if you don't have minutes? it's the only way to make progress. And I think Deanna said that they're gonna, her and Mac are going to come up with a draft law to get the discussion going. So that draft law itself would be something that would be a document that could be, you know, after the meeting, could be as part of the minutes that is published.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to unmute Tim now. If I can find Tim. Okay, you're good, Tim.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think Esther covered some of my questions here, but I guess I just want to just reiterate that and ask about the way that these safety regulations are crafted. I mean, are they really based on real incidents that have happened in the past versus hypothetical scenarios? I could think of a million different hypothetical scenarios, and maybe not too many of them are very likely. So I do think there does have to be some sort of kind of balance, a real balance between, okay, what are some of these likely scenarios and what's going to end up being really burdensome to the actual owner without actually making any kind of real safety impact. For instance, trespassing is one thing, but then obviously, where do these safety regulations stop? And
I'm gonna cut you off only because we have had one committee meeting, we have no ordinance drafted, we have nothing in place yet for anybody to even talk about. When we have that, we will have a time to discuss that stuff, but right now it's premature. We need to let our committee do their job.
Okay, just to understand, the committee has really no power whatsoever. No power, They can submit something to the board could decide not to read it, they could submit something to the board, you guys could fight among yourselves and decide not to go ahead with it. They could submit something to the board and one member of the board could say, I'm gonna go back and rewrite it. I mean, you as a board, you can't delegate any authority like that to anybody. The board has.
So at the end of the day, the final decision will be with the town board after proper public hearings and all the rules are followed. So we are not in a position to develop that yet. Mike, do you have anything to say?
No.
So I appreciate in advance everybody's patience while we work through this with our committee. And we will do our best to get through it as soon as we can. And we'll do our best to keep you informed as much as possible. Thank you very much. We have to move on. We have a lot to cover on the meeting tonight. So next up would be Jenny. I apologize for making you wait. And
No, it's no problem.
along with that, Denise is here and also Peg. We have some discussions about the park and the use of the park and some other things. So I think I'll combine the three of you to do what we need to do here. Jenny, feel free to.
Great. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak to me, Alan. And I know it's a very busy agenda, so I will work to keep this short. So I just wanted to come and introduce or perhaps reintroduce the Roxbury Arts Group to our town board members tonight. To just let you know what we are doing, what we have been doing, and answer any questions about what we're planning on doing in the future. So, of course, the Roxbury Art Group was founded in 1979 by community members who were working to create high-quality arts engagement opportunities right here in our rural community. However, their efforts were in motion far before the organization was officially founded. And for over 40 years, the Roxbury Arts Group has continued this mission by offering performances in dance, music, and theater, classes for artists at all stages in their artistic careers, camps and workshops for our youngest emerging artists, and exhibitions highlighting the works of local, regional, and nationally recognized artists. And all of this program is taking place right here in Roxbury. Our successes have led to several partnerships, including with the New York State Council on the Arts, as we administer the Decentralization Grant Program, a re-grant program supporting arts projects and programs throughout Delaware County, schools and communities, while we provide critical technical support to all of our county's cultural assets.
We also partner with BOCES to deliver after-school crop programming to 10 schools in a 3-county region to deliver creative learning opportunities to our region's students. The Roxbury Arts Group has managed to be both visionary in our programming while remaining community-oriented and connected in our delivery. Through our programs, the Roxbury Arts Group forges a better quality of life for our community members, enhances the educational opportunities for our students, and contributes to a vibrant Main Street and tourism opportunities. All of our programs, events, exhibits, and services are delivered by a staff of 3 women, supported by a volunteer board, who work diligently to ensure that the Roxbury Arts Group continues to meet the changing needs of our community. Last year, as the Roxbury Arts Group faced the unprecedented challenges caused by the pandemic, we were dedicated to finding ways to continue to serve our community, our artists, and our local business community in an environment where we could keep everyone safe. We were grateful for the community members and farmers that enabled the Roxbury Arts Group to hold programs in their gardens and in their fields, while we weren't able to use Kilt and Stella Kelly Performance Hall or our Old School Baptist Church venues. We are also, of course, extremely grateful to the town board who agreed to allow the Roxbury Arts Group to offer 2 performances at the Barns in Kirkside Park, which were offered free of charge during this time. It was a great way to serve our constituents, which are constituents that we both share. Also working to support our Main Street businesses and the devastated arts community. Working at the Barns offers several benefits. The space, of course, is beautiful. We love taking the opportunity to show off our community assets, especially to people who might inquire about renting them in the future. We love the idea of community members enjoying their park, a shining jewel of Roxbury, and selfishly, the Roxbury Arts Group staff and our lighting and sound technicians are very comfortable working in the space after partnering with the town for several years on Labor Day events, a service which we provided gratis in the spirit of community benefit and partnership. As a 501c3 charitable nonprofit organization, the Roxbury Arts Group is financially supported by grants from foundations and the New York State Council on the Arts, as well as donations from individuals and local business communities who choose to support their community arts organization. Each and every dollar of funding allows us to remove another barrier between our community and the arts, whether that is providing better quality arts programming, better art supplies, or providing programming at low or no cost, including our celebratory Season of Free in 2019. Conversely, every dollar spent on overhead costs means that we need to pass along those expenses on to our community members. I've been the executive director of the Roxbury Arts Group for the last decade, for the last 10 years. I cannot think of a more honorable and fulfilling way to serve this community, which I now call my home. I raised my son here. As a person who has 0 artistic ability, I understand the importance of having an organization like this here and having these opportunities here for everyone who lives here and everyone who visits here. It's an essential part of our community. I look forward to the town of Roxbury, the board's support, and I hope to see you at one of our upcoming events. So thank you all again so much for just inviting me here tonight. If anybody has any questions about what we do at any time, I'm available now, or you can't just pop into the arts group right now, you have to make an appointment. You can always give me a call.
Okay, and we do have
with the park committee, I know you were gonna reach out, I don't know if you did to Denise.
I
concerning
believe
your
that
scheduling.
Karen may have corresponded with you about.
She corresponded with me much prior to like us talking about specific dates. Like she just asked what different availabilities were, but
Yeah.
that's about as far as that went.
Yeah.
And I answered her.
Anybody else, Macker, you got anything to say? I see you're still on there. Guess that's a no. Okay. Okay, Denise. Have at it.
Hey, I'm trying to speak.
Now you are. You just got muted again, Macker.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
All right. I don't have a lot to say right at the moment. Let's see how this plays out.
Good answer.
So, did you guys have the conversation about how many dates, and is it just a rain date, or is it Thursdays, is it Saturday mornings? Has there been any solidified conversation?
There can't be a solidified conversation as of yet. So for the upcoming year, the arts group is looking in terms of Roxbury performances, right? So everything has changed with the recent announcement.
Right.
But in terms of Roxbury performances, I believe the email that Karen had sent to you initially was that we were looking to hold 3 to 4 performances in Roxbury and looking at doing it in the barns. And
She didn't put a number on it, like just so that could be part of the confusion. Right there, she had just kind of she put out a blanket statement saying what dates are available because we're looking at holding our events outdoors. So,
so it is 3 to 4 performances, and then the reason. So it's 3 to 4 performances would be here. We can't. The reason we need dates, obviously, is because we can't pick a date until we know where an artist is available, when they're coming through, and so on and so forth. So of course we need to know what dates are available. I understand that the dates came over. There's plenty of availability.
But that changes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so it allows us to talk to agents to kind of go
Right,
this, that, and so on and so forth. And so now that we know that, we're, now kind of talking with artists to kind of see who's coming through, penciling in things so that we're able to come through. We're hoping by the end of, what month is it now? March? By the end of March, we'll be able to pin down the season.
I want some clarity for everyone here. Your intention is to actually hold the concerts in the barn in the open pavilion, right?
So that was, so again, before last week, that was our intention. With the recent announcement of the governor of X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth, we don't know. I haven't been able to see the details of the last announcement as to what that actually means beyond the little meme that was sent out.
If it's helpful, I have something coming down to me in bullet points, not all the legalese.
Right.
That I'll pass on to you as soon as I get it.
Right. But yes, so the intention was that if we could serve more people at the barns, that we can serve in other places. So all of this is about serving people. But if we could serve more people at the barns that we could serve in other places, yes, because that's what all of this is about.
I think, if I may, I don't think there's anyone
I'm sorry
here.
if I'm yelling. It's just,
No, I know, I understand. Me too. I'm sorry if I'm waving my arms. I feel, I don't think there's anyone here who does not appreciate what the Roxbury Arts Group does. And if there is, I want to know who they are because I want to talk to you. Because I know, and you know in my soul, I know how important the organization is. I think with the lack of solid information at last month's meeting when this came up was what caused this snowball effect that in essence isn't really necessary. Now, you and I had some conversations and I said, well, I also understand that because of COVID, even if you do pick up after yourself, they still have to hire somebody to clean the barns and sanitize. Which, so I was trying to say, they have a budget to balance. You have a budget to balance. There has to be some room for conversation. And it doesn't seem that that ever happened. And, or maybe it did with you and Alan, or I don't know. But I can't imagine for a minute that something can't be worked out to make this happen.
I didn't really realize there was a snowball, I guess. I just got an email asking about them holding events. I guess very naively asked the question, is there a limit on the number? Because I didn't have any idea of a number.
Right.
So I said, oh, since I
think
know
there
we
was a
do
lot of
this,
naivety and
since I know
underinformation.
we generally don't charge Roxbury Art Group, is there a limit of number of events they can hold
Right,
there
which was
that would
part of the
make it
discussion last
unavailable
month.
to other people? That's all I asked, and then people said, well, let's see what they asked for, and that's where it was left as far as
I think what I'd
I
like
don't
to
know
say,
who else was
at
talking
this
about
point,
it, but
we have Deanna and Mike are both on the committee for Crookside Park. I think rather than spend a lot of time tonight working through this, I think it would be good for Denise and you guys and to get together and just go through this thing and figure out what you want to do and then bring it back to the board when you come up with a schedule. Again, our interest in the board, I think, with everybody that's here is not in causing any problems for anybody, but we're trying to coordinate the use of the park so that it fits for everybody, including the family that wants to have a birthday party or the family that wants to have a wedding and can't afford $15,000 for a wedding venue and those kind of things. It's part of the reason the park is there. So,
But
again,
I
I think
also-
I'd just let the committee and you guys deal with it and figure it out, and then come back to us and we'll make a
I
decision.
also want to say that as you guys discuss this, to recognize RAG as an organization, you could consider comping it and calling it a donation or work through it.
Right.
But, not a donation or a sponsorship for a concert. They go out and get business sponsorships to sponsor their concerts. So maybe the town gets the big logo. More clarity though, you have to admit, the Mark Project has paid for the music on Labor Day for 3 of the past 4 years.
You have, but we have paid
The tech.
and
Staff time, but we had staff time involved there too. So I just wanted to make sure that that this was all an open page here.
And again, I think everybody's trying to be on the same page here and get this thing done. I don't think any of us are adversarial to try to not make it work, so
I don't know.
hopefully we can all work it out. What did you had a couple other things you need to go over
Yeah,
too, right?
we got the bids for the roof on the north
Yes.
barn. And it's, so low bid was a total of 42. The next bid up after that was 66.5, then 74.1, then 90K. Now, we had Fred estimate what he thought the project should cost. And he said between 40 and 45. So, I'm just saying. One of the things, though, we asked that they supply proof of workers' comp and liability and lead safe work practices. And the only one who provided all 4 of those documents in the non-collusive bidding statement is the high bidder. So we followed through with the low bidder. And he has, I don't know if Katie got them to Diane yet, he has sent his workers' comp and liability and his lead certification. He did include his non-collusive bidding statement. So, I'm not sure, and Kevin, this is a question for you. Do we call this non-responsive, or can we accept the bid with proof of insurance?
Why don't I talk to you tomorrow about that?
Okay, because we're on a tight deadline.
Yeah, okay.
So
I think that low bidder also did a project in Harpersfield, and I think that they were incredibly satisfied.
yeah, they're from Summit.
Okay. Yeah, just.
And the other thing I have to say on their behalf is when we bid out projects through the Mark project, we have Fred price them out, and non-responsive is 20% below or 20% above. So if you look at Fred's price at 40,000, that next bid of 66 is 20% above.
Yeah, we don't, from public bidding, we don't really worry about that.
Okay.
What we worry about is whether they responded to the bid, and if they didn't provide all the paperwork, did they get advantaged over the other bidders? And so I need to, sit down and look at everything and make a determination whether what they didn't provide, whether that's like insignificant versus
Significant.
significant.
So, just another, we have a contract there from, Delaware County for a $22,000 award for the roof. Diane will be sending you another check from Transition Catskills for another 8,000. And there's still 22 or 23 sitting at the state.
And I look at that contract, that's fine.
Okay.
That's all I have. You and I need to get together about the kitchen.
Anybody
Let's
have
go
anything
try
else
out the
for Peg?
equipment and cook. What?
Anybody have anything for Peg going
Huh?
forward?
Peg, are these bids for the barn, that's
That's the
beginning to
whole,
end, right?
that's the whole north barn roof.
Right, they're not gonna come back when they start and say, we need another 10,000.
We gotta write it that way in the contract. The roof is not in good shape. If you
No,
take
I
it.
know that, but what I'm saying is if we take the guy at 42,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
is
no
he gonna
change
come
orders.
back in
Yeah.
3 months and go, well, now I'm up to 62?
No, but then no, we can't.
Because plywood went up and
Right.
shingles.
No.
That's the idea of a low bidder.
Well, I know that, but
Yeah.
we paid $100 extra for one of these the windows, because the price of windows went up. And
Yeah, there's money in that program though, and that,
I know, but
You know,
a
it's
bid is
about
a
keeping
bid.
them-
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, this one would be illegal for us to do that.
Do they have a time frame on when that's gonna be on?
we have to have it done by, early
So you
May.
need this resolution.
We need to.
There's an
to
event
get-
May 1st.
Well, you can throw in a tarp.
We're gonna be like, okay, if you pick up shingles, you better.
Give them all an umbrella. Kevin, is it possible that we can pass this resolution pending your review?
Accept the bid.
Accept.
Oh,
pass
yeah,
resolution,
why don't you,
accept the
why don't
bid?
you do that pending attorney,
Yeah, that's what, that would be perfect.
attorney issuing an opinion of legality, how's that?
We call it an opinion of counsel.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Well,
Bill,
gotta
do you wanna pass the
So
resolution.
wait
You
a
wanna do that
second.
now? Okay, well,
Accept the bid
you wanna do that now? Okay, we can do it now.
for,
It's a resolution to award the bid for Kirkside Park
To
North Farm
JCA.
Roof.
To who?
JCA Industries.
Oh,
That
okay, that's
includes
different than the one
playhouse,
that
right,
I,
too?
Is that the, wait a sec.
That's the
JCA, right?
Yeah, well, it's one.
Yeah,
That-
JCA Industries.
What's
Okay.
the playhouse on
what
there?
I said about Harpersville's not this.
Can I have a resolution to accept the low bid pending
Darn.
review by council?
I'll make the resolution.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thacker, you awake?
Yep, aye.
Okay. All right, good. Anything else, Peg? Anybody have anything for Peg?
Good night.
Good night. Bill, you still there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. I apologize for holding you out. I know you gotta be in early in the morning, so.
No problem. I'll keep it short. Everything's going good. We've got all but 2 of our trucks back going. One we should have back going by the end of the week. Everything else is going smooth. We've got our salt and sand shed back about 80% full. Should be good enough, hopefully, for the rest of the season. Other than that, just waiting to the snow to melt to start new projects.
Okay. I will like to say that you guys have done a great job this year. You've worked hard.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the guys are getting saddle sores from being in their trucks as much as they are.
Well,
It's been well liked, and especially want to appreciate you helping out with cleaning the streets off for us, because that was a big help for a lot of people.
we wanted to get to it sooner, but the weather wouldn't allow us.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully we're kind of past that now at this point. We may still see some more snow, but hopefully no more major ones.
Yeah, hopefully.
We'll see. We got a little winter left yet, so I can't say that. Anybody have anything for Bill?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay. Stephanie, you wanna go?
Yeah,
I know Bob's on here too, and I'm
yeah.
holding you guys up, so.
Bob?
Jess, do you wanna unmute Bob Briglio?
Yeah, there's maybe in a different one.
He's on the list.
Asking him to.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Bob, how you doing?
Can you all hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Hanging in there. Okay. We've completed our first run through looking at residential, and we just got Orps's analysis this afternoon, so I can analyze that and then go back and do a second, more focused review before we publish the roll May 1st. And that's it, Alan.
Okay. Stephanie, you got anything?
That's it.
Okay,
More of the same.
good enough. Ed, what do we have building and grounds wise?
I haven't heard nothing.
Okay, you said we still gotta look at doing some work on the outside of the civic center, right?
Yeah, well, I'll do either caulking those windows or doing something with them.
Maybe we can take a look at that and figure out what we need to do, see if we can get a contractor in there. Take a look at it, so. Okay, we didn't get a report from our building inspector this month. Nothing with the planning board, other than I did see some letters back and forth concerning the Hughes Energy project. Kevin, I don't know if you were on that.
No, I didn't see.
There's some letters back and forth, with the, permit approval there.
Okay,
You haven't been really involved with that?
no,
right?
Allison is.
Allison's doing it, okay. So. It looks like they've got some resubmittals to do for some other things there. Okay, I guess that's everything for department reports, unless somebody has anything else. I did just want to say that along with building and grounds, we are moving forward with the Midrocks building. I spoke with Randy Mayer today. I guess we're okay to go forward with the purchase of the building. And one thing I did want to discuss with the board is we're looking at doing the building purchase through a bond anticipation note. And then we are looking at using the existing good neighbor funds to make the improvements we need in the building. And once we get the improvements completed, we will turn that note into a permanent bond, either 10 or 15 years, depending on where we go. So things are starting to come together, which is good. I did get a quote from a contractor today who looked at doing some changes inside that I didn't get a chance to scan and send to you guys, but I'll get it out to you. So. Anybody have anything else on that?
Alan, you gotta speak up a little bit.
You can't hear me?
No, hardly.
Okay.
Did you send to the board the structural?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I did send you the inspection report, yeah, okay.
So there is high radon. And
that's right.
And so it would be a good idea if we mitigated that. I think it's pretty natural around here, but
I'm looking into some pricing on what that's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be a huge problem. That building's a slab on grade, so there's really, except for one section, there's no basement, so I don't think it's gonna be a huge issue for us, but
Could that be from if they're enclosed up? and
That's
stuff?
maybe a
That could also
possibility
be
too.
too, yeah. I was wondering if they can't open.
We may, once we get it in our possession and can start doing stuff with it, maybe try to ventilate it better, maybe sit.
Well,
retest
we
it.
haven't been closed up, not that long, though.
Well, it's been a while. Well,
Can the public ask a question?
Sure.
What will happen to the building you guys are in right now?
It's gonna continue to be a town building. We're gonna look at some uses for it at this point. We haven't really made up our minds or we're gonna probably be looking for suggestions. We have some ideas that may work well for it. But I don't see it being sold anytime soon, at least, unless we have to, but I do think we've got some possibilities that it could be used for, so.
Okay, thanks.
And just so it's clear on the record, so we don't need to pass a resolution at this point. But at some point, we'll need to pass a resolution authorizing the closing. So we have the title, we have the construction, and when we close, we need the cash. And the cash is, we're gonna do a bond with MBT, and it's a tax anticipatory note, which is like a 1-year note that we could also extend for another year. The interest rate is like unbelievable, it's below 1%. So the bond resolution that you passed initially was for $550,000. So that's the most that we can get at this point in time. And so then what we're doing is that's enough to buy the building, but then we need some money to fix it up. And if we're going to use the Good Neighbor Fund to fund that. But then when it's all done, go get a longer term bond to pay back the bond anticipatory note and to pay back the Good Neighbor Fund. The only thing is that you'll have to pass another bond resolution before we actually invest any money in the fix-up, because the bond resolution for the long-term bond has to be done before the clock's on.
We could probably do that next month.
We can do that next month.
Okay, and so we're all set then to go through the closing at this point. I talked with Randy today, and he said that we had everything we needed as far as the resolution.
So the board can pass a resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute the documents necessary to close.
Okay. We'll do that under resolution.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything else with building grounds? Couple other things on old business. We discussed the sidewalks a little bit. We are looking into, as Peg's left, I just assume Peg left, so she's here. We are gonna try to look into some possibilities for some grant funding to make some improvements on the sidewalks and try to go forward with some things there before next winter. I think we're hopefully out of the major snow for this year. I may be sorry I said that, but.
Didn't Kevin have to look into something?
For sidewalks?
Yeah, from DOT right away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yes, I forgot about that. Concerning what regulations there was and where the DOT right of way ended on the sidewalks, you remember we discussed it at the meeting last month?
Yeah.
What the DOT's responsibility was.
We have nothing on our books as far as a sidewalk ordinance of any kind that we can find that says that there's an obligation for people to maintain their own sidewalks, but we thought that there was maybe something in the DOT regulations that would say that.
Okay.
That's right, the only thing other, Kevin, for you is this water leak bill that we had from back in November. You were gonna work on a letter that we could send to that homeowner.
Yes.
Up here on Main Street.
Yeah.
The one where we had the two services. You received a letter from the Roxbury Rotary Club thanking us for their donation. I'm sorry, this wrong thing. Strike that. The Rotary Club has requested, I think we spoke about this at the last meeting, that the town take over the installation of Christmas lights and decorations in town. They don't have anybody that can handle it anymore. They're looking for the town to either take it over or some other organization to oversee and keep putting up the Christmas lights. They want to donate all the lights that they have for that purpose. Is that something the board wants to take on? Do we want to see if we can find another organization that might be willing to take it over?
Wouldn't that fall under like the same thing as the sidewalks? I mean.
Well, no, this is just the installation of the Christmas lights, the hanging lights on the
Yeah,
poles.
but where you're gonna hang them in Roxbury, what about Grand Gorge and Denver?
Right,
You know,
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I
I know it's something that Diane, you remember, it's something the Rotary's done for many years.
So did you just, who would normally do it, Mike Hinkley? Put them up?
Yeah, Bob Townsend would help,
Did you have to pay, like, or no?
No,
No, he would volunteer. Okay.
It's like we do in Grand Gorge. The Community Action Group, in conjunction with the Business Alliance, takes care of them in Grand Gorge. This year we had MTC do it because I lost use of the bucket truck that I was borrowing before. Past couple of years I've been doing them with Dennis Muthig's bucket truck, and once I get my own I'll be relieving MTC and be back at it again. But
maybe something we want to look into. Maybe the
I just was wondering if that kind of falls under the same thing where, you know.
Well, I agree with Ed. I mean, if we're gonna take them over here, we should probably take them over everywhere. It's not just
I agree.
here and
Yeah, I
let
agree.
Joe do Grand Gorge and call, hey, thank you. I mean,
well, the one thing that we do that the Rotary did was we self-fund the repairs and the maintenance of them. And every year we, Rich Davis had created a hanging bracket that we hang up in the gym underneath one of the basketball hoops. And it sits low enough by outlets that it enables us to put 3 wreaths at a time on this bracket and plug them in. And then we go around and we clean all the lights that work. We change the bulbs that are bad, change sockets, and repair bows and the whole kit and caboodle. And then we
Rotary members did that too. Tom did it for many, many years. Bob Townsend, Matthews, all of them.
Yeah, so that's what's involved, other than just installing them. You know what I mean? Because they get beat up there, and you got to clean them too. I mean, the salt is just unbelievable. You know what I mean? There are lights that are lit, and you don't even know it. You know, if I had my own bucket truck, I wouldn't even mind going around periodically and maintaining them while they're up, because it drives me crazy after all that work, and then you pass a wreath and the lights aren't working. I want to throw a ladder up right away and fix it. But yeah, just so you guys know, it's more than just storing them and installing them. And then there's also the electric on the poles. Right now I have a list for Grand Gorge. There's some poles that have power that aren't connected, some that need new photo cells and outlets, and then there's one pole, 2 poles that don't have any power at all because the poles were hit by vehicles and those poles were removed, new ones installed, and nobody left our electric on the ground. So we lost that power. So there's 2 poles that we've got to go and purchase stuff for. And over the years too, there's been a lot of irregularities with different guys doing the electrical work. And that's one of the things that I'd like to change, at least in Grand Gorge, is make all the hookups exactly the same. I've got there's some of them that are really good and they'll last for a really long time. And then there are other ones that are like a cheap version. So, a lot of work. So it's not just putting up a wreath.
So what's your pleasure? Do you want to kind of table this and see if we can look into another organization that would be willing to take it on and do it here in Roxbury?
Yeah, I would hate to see that go on.
Well,
No, I agree. We should try to keep it going if we can.
I don't want one community
Oh, absolutely.
saying, you know,
Absolutely.
why are we doing it here?
Yep, I agree.
What about the Mark project?
We can talk to, the other one is that, new group, Friends of Roxbury group that's been fairly active lately. They may have an interest in stepping up to help. They seem to be interested in helping us with some of these kind of projects.
Basically, more volunteers.
They're right, volunteers, they're all volunteers, so. Okay, Greendale Sanitation, we spoke briefly at the last meeting. We did get a response back from the DEC that they have sent a letter to the owner, concerning, him managing the problem a little better. And they're gonna be following up, I guess, in a couple more weeks again with him.
Give them some of the cats from around Grand Gorge.
Again, it's really not a town code issue, it's more of a,
Well, it's also in, is it in Catskill?
well, it's actually in Roxbury.
No, it's in
It is
Roxbury,
Roxbury.
yeah.
But the,
Yeah, so he applied the pesticide himself.
And he put it outside,
Yeah,
didn't
he
do it to
and he
code.
didn't do it in the proper way. And the pesticides are all highly regulated, so they're suggesting that he use a commercial registered pesticide applicator.
Right.
and again, this is a permitted facility with the DEC. So it's really not a Roxbury code officer issue, it's more an issue for the DEC to deal with.
Rodents at transfer stations are part of the Part
Right.
360 permit process.
Right, right. So they're addressing it. We did get a letter from them recently. They're
Yeah,
addressing it.
almost any commercial business usually has a registered pesticide
Yeah.
company come in and,
And you can't even, if you're a business, you can't even use one of those cans to spray beehives. That's technically a pesticide applicator.
Really? Wow.
Oh, you gotta hire someone for that?
Yeah, well, what they do is they send somebody out, like the utility company will send someone out the day before, see if it's okay. If it's okay, fine. But if it's not okay, then they'll have somebody come in and spray it. The next day, the guy goes back and looks on the meter.
well, there's a lot of that crazy stuff that you can be fined for.
Yeah.
Chris, I apologize. I see you're still here on the Zoom. Did you have anything you need to say about water and sewer? We did get Mike Harrington's written report. Everybody's reviewed.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. I know Mike Harrington had sent you an update on the water project at Roxbury and Denver. The only thing that I really have is the recurring problem at Cluster 1 with the sewer backing up. We have to dig up that line and investigate and add some cleanouts.
You and I discussed that.
Yeah.
When the weather gets better, we'll look into getting the contractor up there to redo that.
Yeah, other than that, we're just waiting on a set of samples to send out our annual water quality report, and that'll go to DOH, and then when they approve it, we'll send it to the town and it can be sent out, mailed out. But other than that, that's basically it for me.
Okay.
Just let Chris know he has vouchers to sign or somebody.
Do that, Chris.
What's that?
Diane said you have some vouchers here to sign.
Okay.
You or whoever.
Yep, I can come in and sign those.
Okay.
Can I just do the Denver up?
Oh, yes, Kevin, sure. If you want to discuss that, yes.
Just say, so the super plant at Denver is a plant that was, it's owned by the town or owned by the city. It was a plant that was paid for by the city of New York because they require this tertiary treatment. And that plant is now 20 years older. And the equipment the original equipment that the city put in there was really, it was the first version of microfiltration of sewage treatment plants. So it was ahead of its time. And that equipment is now obsolete.
Behind its time.
Yeah, it's behind its time. It's obsolete and the manufacturer doesn't make parts anymore. And so under the memorandum of agreement, the city is obligated to pay for us to get a new microfiltration unit. And so we had a study done that was recommended in the study. City has agreed to do it. And Lamont the city asked for a budget, and Lamont issued a budget, and it was, with engineering and legal, was $873,000. So I imagine the question is what kind of contract do we have to sign with the city in order to get that funding? And we're waiting to hear back from the city on that. We are going to have I tried to schedule, I don't know if I sent it out yet, but I'm trying to schedule a conference call with the city and Lamont and a couple town board members. Did you get that, Diane?
Yes, is it tomorrow or?
I don't know, I guess next week, I think.
I thought it was Wednesday. I think we did send it
Oh,
sometime.
I don't know, whenever it is. So that we can just figure out what the process is gonna be. You mentioned that there's some, the plant itself, the wastewater treatment plant, this is, you might say, the back end of the plant. The front end of the plant was built, what, in the 1980s or?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
And so we don't have, city's not responsible for that. And it wouldn't hurt if we replaced that, but you're talking a couple $1 million. But we might be able to leverage the city money with a state grant where you have like a 60% grant, 40% loan. And we use the city money as our 40% loan, and we get a 60% grant. So we're gonna look into that now that we have the city, hopefully on the hook.
As I said, there is a program coming along as part of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Part of this stimulus package, and I was told by somebody from through Gillibrand's office that they're apparently looking for projects like this that they can fund fairly quickly as
Yeah,
part
so
of this program.
that's why
So-
I was kind of bringing it up tonight. That
Yeah,
you could,
so we'll talk about it more and
Yeah.
see what we can incorporate into that. If we
Yeah.
could, that might be a good possibility to.
but at this point, there's nothing for the town board to do.
Kevin, do you want to just briefly, you had this thing about this American Rescue Plan?
Well, I guess, did you wanna just, it looks like it's gonna pass.
Right.
And it looks like Roxbury's gonna get $252,000.
I thought it was more than that, actually.
Yeah, I thought you said 4.
Delgado.
He told us.
I don't know, this page here,
Somebody
Diane, you
Delgado.
printed that page out?
I see that. but
Okay.
From what he told us, it was gonna be more like 400,000. So,
And Saugerty's getting 2 million. So, and just that, so the way it's gonna come is basically in 60 days, you'll get half of it. And I think in another, I think it's like in another 60 days, or 90 days.
It sounded like they were gonna get the whole thing, no? Wow.
But again, he was a little vague on what the requirements were gonna be for what this can be used for.
Yeah, well,
Or not.
it's in here, so yeah, I'm just trying to. So this is, the plan dictates how the federal money can be used. Includes all the following options. For governmental services impacted by a reduction. Let me get it over here. Okay, so use of the funds, to respond to public health emergencies, the pandemic or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, not-for-profits, and aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. It's kind of broad. And then if you have essential workers, you can compensate the essential workers an additional amount up to $13 an hour, not to exceed $25,000 per worker. And if you like, if you suffered losses in your tax, like sales tax, share or whatever, you can use it to make up that loss in taxes. And you can use it for necessary investment in water, sewer, or broadband.
Hmm.
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 You can't use it for pension. And you can't use it to reduce your tax rate.
Gotta get solar for that.
What? Gotta get solar for that.
Okay. Checks in the mail.
Yeah. Well, they got, I guess their house has to vote on the rate.
So we'll see what happens. You all received the letter for the MTC for rate changes. As usual. Almost identically every year. Senior Club, thank you letter for the information that was put out. You did receive the other letter concerning the park rentals. It was in your package. And we do have a request from David Gula to hook up to the Grand Gorge water system. You saw the information on that. There was a letter submitted. Does the board have any objections to that? If not, can I have a resolution to allow that hookup?
I would make that. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So he's responsible for all the out-of-pocket costs.
Yes.
Yes. I've gotta get him the contract.
And, yeah,
I just went over that with him the other day.
and he's within the district?
No. He's in Grand Gorge, he's right on the line, right, just the Grand Gorge side of Becker Tire of Ferris Hill Road. When we put that line in, we had to get easements from Esther, who is the first place on the right up Ferris Hill, Josie Buzzier, Tommy Ferrasi, and at that point, somebody else owned David's house, but it was, and then his father Jay bought it, and then I think he turned it over to David, but they were all given the opportunity, and I believe stubs were put in.
Okay,
This
so
is
that,
back when we did the water main.
okay, so we don't need it. I did those easements, and we put in those easements, they had a right to connect, so we don't need an agreement.
David
So we don't
owns it?
need a
No,
resolution?
David,
Okay.
beside Tommy Ferrasi.
Oh, because I thought it said Stephen and Destiny.
No, this says. This was
Oh,
David.
David and Shelby, never mind, okay.
Okay, unless we have anything else to discuss, we'll move on to resolutions.
What about the
You
Meeker
have
Hollow
the
thing?
Speed reduction,
What's that?
The last thing.
the speed reduction
Oh, yes,
request.
I forgot to put that note on here. We did get a request today from, a resident in Meeker Hollow who was concerned about speed on Lower Meeker Hollow Road. Mostly cars going to Plattekill. I see Macker smiling. They were requesting whether we could look at reducing the speed on that road. Just for anybody that's not aware, any town road, the way I understand it, that is not marked otherwise, has a speed limit of 55 miles an hour by state. So if we want to reduce the speed limit, we have to go through, just like we're doing over at Roxbury Run, we have to go through the state and make a request through the county to have the speed limit reduced. So, if that's something the board would like me to pursue, we will look into it.
Where's this person live? I mean, Laura.
It's the one I believe, I think they're up in it's the ones in the Lanzalota house there. I don't have the email in front of me, I don't have the lady's name right now, but, I believe that's where it was. They have on the one side of the road there, they have the short-term rental business, and the other side they do, an exercise camp or something like that.
No, you're thinking of the O'Dados.
That's not the place?
No.
No, she lives there full time with her husband.
Okay, maybe I'm
And, yeah, they have a TP rental on their property.
Yes.
So they do some short-term rent,
Right.
but.
Yeah, they have those little structures up in the woods, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
but they live there full time.
Yes,
Can I say something?
Sure.
I live on Lower Meeker. The road
Yes.
is marked and it's marked at 30, but there's only one sign and people don't follow that. But there is a 30-mile-an-hour road sign on Lower Meeker Hollow Road, which is the road to Plattekill.
yeah, I think Robin and I discussed this earlier today with the other lady, I think that sign was not put up there. I think it was put up by one of the residents up through there, it was not an official road sign.
No, there is an official road sign.
Yeah.
I'd have to check into that with the county, because I don't recall that that's a road that was reduced to 30 miles an hour, but we'll check into that and find out.
Okay, thank you. And they do speed like crazy on that road. It's really dangerous.
Yeah, I'm aware. I go up there a lot myself, I know. We will look into it and see what we can do. Anything else that I missed? Diane, do you have anything else?
There's the water district, the clutter, the noise,
The noise.
and the sewer noise.
Yeah, we can address that during this upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's ways of mitigating,
Okay.
there's ways of insulating those pieces of equipment.
So with nothing else, we'll do our resolutions. First one we have is a resolution for the town clerk monthly report, the supervisor's monthly report, assessor's report, building inspector we did not receive, water district report, justice monthly reports, and the tax collector's monthly report. Should have all been in your packet. Do I have a resolution from somebody?
Oh my God.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We still have a vacancy on the planning board. I have not heard of anybody, but if anybody knows of somebody that would like to be on the planning board, we still have an opening there. We do need to do a resolution to reappoint Mike Mathis to the historic committee, Roxbury Historic Committee. Let me understand this, Diane, he didn't take the oath when we appointed him last time, so we have to reappoint him?
Right.
Okay. I need a resolution for that.
I'll make that resolution.
We received a request from the county and for a resolution in support of small businesses in the town. Especially in light of the COVID, need a resolution to support that. Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Did we get a resolution for Mike? Did I skip right over that?
Mike Mathis,
I did, okay.
Mike and B.
Okay. We had a bid opening for highway diesel.
What about the Catskill Recreational Center?
Yes, I have not spoken with her yet. We need to find out, what we're gonna be able to do there. I know we've talked about it a couple times and I've not been able to talk with her yet. They were closed for a while because of COVID issues, I know.
Well, that was the donation that we made back last year, and Kevin.
We voted on it, but we.
Yeah, but you were gonna tell us like what line we could put it under.
Well, it was just that, I have to go back and look, but it was just I sent a legal opinion about, you had to have it for a specific
Right.
purpose.
Just do a,
Right.
an
So you gotta
open
find a
donation for
specific
not-for-profit.
purpose.
Right, and that's what the board
Right.
needs to say, what specific.
Like what's the,
Yeah,
so what's the thing? It can't be for operating
Right.
costs
I
or
need to-
whatever,
I
because
need
you
to
already
find out
told us
from
that.
her what project or what we can do. I know Margaretville did the same thing.
You know what's weird is that this thing that just passed, you could actually use that money.
Yeah.
Kind of weird in a way, though.
Hmm.
Okay, highway diesel, we had 2 bids. sand and gravel, but I don't have the highway diesel.
They're all in there.
I know they are, I'm sure.
I know, I thought I had
It's
it.
all-
Unless they were emailed to everybody.
I thought I had it separated.
I thought I did too. Give me just a second. Got it. Okay, we have a fluctuating and a fixed price. Looks like the fixed diesel and the winter blend fixed diesel. We've typically always gone with a fixed price instead of the fluctuating on these. Unless anybody has any objections, it looks like it's Botini fuel. Would have been the low bid,
Well,
right?
I'll give this to Kevin, he can help you out with that because one's low on the regular.
Oh, yeah, I
one's
see
low
what you
on
mean,
the
yeah, I'm
blend.
sorry.
What about awarding it to both?
Hmm?
Awarding it to both and
Can you do one as one, is that everybody?
I guess if we award to both,
I
they-
don't suggest splitting it. That's gonna be a nightmare.
yeah. If we award it to both, we can then pick and choose kinda, right?
yeah, that's what I was.
Do those two low bidders.
Then how do we go
Then
on
who's
automatic
already gonna
renewal?
Determine who's gonna deliver what, you gonna go
Yeah.
by temperature?
Well, okay, wait a second. So the diesel, it's just, Maravido has diesel at $2.22 and, okay, no, so it's, I'm sorry. Which one is it? Which one is Botini?
Moravido is $2.42. Botini, that's for the winter blend fixed price. Botini has $2.17 as a low bid for diesel fuel fixed, straight diesel.
Yeah.
So. And Diane's right, if we do one to one and one to the other, it's gonna get complicated.
You can choose one.
I'm not choosing anything.
No, I mean
That's
the
you
board.
guys can choose.
I meant the board can choose one. What do you buy more? You know, it's kind of funny as well.
Well, we actually buy a lot more just plain diesel than we do winter blend. I was, if it was, I was just, well, go with the low bid for Botini, they're only 8 cents higher or 7 cents higher, whatever it is, on the winter blend. It probably makes sense to go with just them.
Yeah.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Yep. So can I have a motion to accept Botini as the low bid?
Fixed on
Fixed
both.
on both.
I'll make that.
A second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I think those prices are gonna go up too, though.
Yeah, they
As
are.
we come out of
'cause
COVID.
That's what they said, even if it is.
That's why it definitely makes sense to do fixed, I think, right now. And the next bid that we have is for highway material hauling. Bill's not on, we probably should have done this when he was on there, but I think, didn't we last,
Last year we bidded it, we awarded it to everybody.
I was just gonna say we awarded, because whichever one can get it the easiest, I think we just awarded it to everybody, didn't we?
Well, they more or less get their own anyway, right? We haul most of it ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we can do that again.
I think that's what we did last year. I think that's what we should do again, probably. That gives Bill the opportunity to, depending on where he gets it from and where he's working and things like that, so. So can I have a motion for that?
I'll make it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're getting there. This Denver sewer upgrade, do we need to?
Nothing, that's my just for the.
Yeah, we're not doing a
Yeah.
resolution yet on that, right? Okay. You all got a copy of the operations planning, where's Stephanie? She did, she leave it? She said, okay. This was the plan that we developed for, emergency operations in the event we have, another COVID type emergency. And, the plan has been submitted to the Highway Workers Association. They have agreed and approved to it the way it is. That was part of the requirement that we had to do that. And it's been looked at by pretty much everybody, so if nobody has any objections, we will adopt that. And I need a resolution to do that.
I'll make that resolution.
In a second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
We have a resolution for a junkyard renewal license for Marty Built up in Grand Gorge.
I'll make that. I'll second it.
We have a resolution to sponsor the Memorial Day parades like we've done both in Grand Gorge and Roxbury in past years. We're all in hopes that we can continue to do that this year again. I need a resolution so that we can sponsor the applications for that.
I'll make that resolution.
I'll second it.
Second by Deanna. Okay, and you said we do not need to do this resolution for the Midrocks?
Did Randy,
Randy told me today we were all set. He said we didn't need another resolution for
so-
that.
so I want a resolution and authorizing the supervisor to proceed to closing. You guys okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Need a resolution for that?
I'll make it.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And along that lines, we need a resolution to authorize the use of good neighbor funds, as we discussed earlier, to make the improvements in the building, at which point, once the things are completed and we do a permanent bond, we would pay back we would reimburse the good neighbor fund out of the bond proceeds. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Need a resolution for that one as well?
I'll make that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we need a resolution. Remember when we adopted the short-term rental committee last month? We added Esther after that, after the fact, and we need a resolution to include her on that committee. Esther Dijon. Somebody can make that resolution?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
As Peg discussed earlier, we got a grant for from the occupancy tax fund for the county for, I believe it was 22,000. Need a resolution to accept that grant and for me to allow me to sign the application.
I reviewed the contract, that was okay with it.
Okay. Yes. So moved.
And the community solar program,
We need a second.
oh yeah, second.
I assume, Ed, you made the motion?
Motion.
Ed made the motion, who's gonna second?
I'll second it.
Mike?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
community solar program campaign. Kevin, you said you wanted to review.
I'm sorry that
If you get home late tonight, it's your fault.
I know, but you know, there's nothing wrong with doing, I don't know what this.
I agree with you, solar's great and everything, but what are we giving up here? Are we giving up anything?
We're not really giving anything up. To me, don't put this in the paper, but to me.
Say off the record.
Yeah.
You gotta say off the record.
To me, they're treating, this whole thing, it is really totally downstate. It was downstate drafted, it's downstate. Everything is for the benefit of downstate.
And as again, we're gonna.
And yet all this energy is gonna be generated upstate. And,
over the water.
And notwithstanding what she says, the electricity of solar and wind is, if it was more cost effective than natural gas, the only reason we have cheap electricity now, is the fact that we have the hydro, we have the nuclear power plants, and natural gas is so damn cheap. Once that's, once we go to solar and wind,
They're not reliable.
everything's gonna have to go up. And solar and wind is not reliable. Solar is 20% effective, wind is like 40% effective, where a natural gas is 90. It just means that 90% of the time it's producing electricity, where solar is. I just feel, I feel we need to not just be bought off by $5,000, but to maybe make a statement saying, hey, we want to, we want to look at what we want a long-term plan looking at these rural communities and how we best respond. We're gonna get wind, we're gonna get solar, and it is good, but maybe there's some, maybe we could put it on city property. That's property.
I don't think this resolution has anything to do with developing new solar.
No.
This is strictly for people signing on to use
the community. That's what I'm
community
saying.
solar,
You can do it.
which
They're
is
just
a different arrangement.
Yeah,
It's a
I just
totally
look at them as
different
buying
program.
your vote. They're giving you $5,000 so that you support their efforts. And
I think they're looking for the support, yeah, like you said, in their efforts to go to the community solar.
Your foot in the door.
yeah, so there's nothing wrong with doing it. I just
Yeah, I agree that it's good, they can use it.
What's the board's pleasure on this? We'll need a resolution to pass this if we're gonna go there, or do you wanna table it and think about it for a month?
Let's table it.
There he is.
You are awake.
Oh, I'm awake. Let's table it.
Okay, you got a resolution? Diana, you second that? Can we table it?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Table it, and look at it in the future? Okay. Done.
So am I leaving it on the agenda?
Let's see what comes up for next month. Leave it on there for now. Let's see what we got for next month.
So then what are you gonna do with the unified solar permit?
we'd have to wait on that. I still haven't seen it. What is the unified solar permit?
Something they're trying to sneak in.
Yeah, it seems like it's like a modified building permit, which they still haven't presented to what it is, and it's for up to 25 kilowatts. So I have it on my house. And I got a big roof. I got 4.5 kilowatts. So it's like 5 residential systems you could put in under this modified permit. But I don't even know what the permit looks like. So and I kind of don't know that you can adopt it. And plus, I don't know that you can. I don't know if you have a building code,
But it
I don't know that you can't amend the building code by
takes- does it
resolution.
Take the approval authority away from the town, you give it to them?
It's, I think it's just, I don't know what. So I don't want you to adopt until I at least review it and see what it is. I think it's,
Okay, we will hold off on that. Pre-approval of resolution for the pre-approval of bills, was that in our packet, Diane? I apologize, I just didn't see that, okay. So I need that resolution. A second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
And you've been distributed what our water project costs to date have been, mostly Denver, but we're also starting to get some pretty good costs, and we'll have going into the Roxbury School project, so. Stephanie, just briefly, while you just came back in the room, did you have anything more you wanted to say about this operations, this co-op plan that we did? I would like to acknowledge that Stephanie put a lot of work into this herself and coordinated this plan and worked with everybody to get it together and get it in writing.
Thank you, Alan. I would have gotten out sooner had I not filed it away before, instead of distributing it.
We
So,
already
apologize for that.
adopted it. We already adopted it, but I did want to see if you had anything.
Oh,
more you
no,
wanted
I
to say
don't,
about
but,
it, so.
no, the only thing I want to say is that, I am keeping an inventory. The only thing that we're not doing per the plan is the number of PPE pieces, per employee for a 6-month period. Because remember, we talked about that, Alan, you said that the county was going to probably be a provider of some of that. So beyond that, we have supplies and, we're in good shape. So we're sanitized.
And again, thank you.
Oh, I'm
for
happy to
your
do it.
effort through this. You did put a lot of effort into it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
With that being said, we got the bills to pay and we're good to go. You've all received a copy of the bills, I hope. And who went over them this time? You did, Ed?
D and I.
D and you? Okay. Any questions or concerns?
No, I'll make a motion with that.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we're done. Being no more, anything else for the board to go over that anybody forgot? If not, we will.
Did we award the bid for the Brookside barn, the roof?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
we did that with Pegasus here. Yeah.
We did our earlier.
Awarded pending, didn't you?
Like an hour and a half ago.
Pending.
JCA.
Pending my opinion.
Yeah.
We ordered it,
Pending,
yeah.
pending his opinion.
Yes.
Okay, with that being
GC
said,
Industries,
I
right.
guess I'll call for a resolution to go home, unless anybody has anything else. Macker, still there? Wake up, Macker.
I'll make it.
You must be gone by now.
All in favor?
Aye, 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 it's over.